Okay, so we just finished puzzle A. This time we'll take a look at puzzle C. I want to skip around and teach different ways to do these puzzles. I'm just picking them randomly. Nothing special about them. Okay, and we're not worried about time, so ignore the timer in the top right. Okay, so again, we have another 5x5 square. It goes 5 squares across and 5 squares down. All right, so instead of looking at columns, this time we'll look at rows. And we'll look at rows on purpose because sometimes you can find the perfect starting point if you know your numbers. Again, this is a 5x5 square or 5x5 grid. That means that if any row has a 5 in it, we can go ahead and color all of them in because we know that 5 in a row means that that whole row or column is colored in. So this row has 5, so we can color that one in, because we know definitely that all 5 of those are colored in. It told us so. You gotta trust these numbers. We can also color in the row under it because this row has 5 colored in. Okay, no other row has 5 and no columns has 5. Okay, it's best to start with what you know because it helps make the rest of it go pretty easy. Okay, so let's start over on the rows. We have 2, 2 for our first row. 2, 2. There has to be a gap between the two. So if we have 1 and 2, followed by a gap, and then 1, 2, that fills our puzzle, and that's the only way that this row can be colored in, because you can't move those pieces around. You'll have different numbers. You'll have different squares colored in. Okay. So solving that one and the 2 rows that have 5 in them also solved 2 of our columns. It's pretty good. Okay, so we have 3. This one has 3 in it. So let's see. We can't easily figure out which 3 it is just looking at it, knowing that. So we're going to skip that. And the same goes for this row with 1. It could be any of these 5 that has 1. So we're going to skip those. We're going to go to our columns. We solved our first column by solving the 3 rows that we did, and we'll look at our second column, which has a 4 in it. Okay, so it has a 4 and already has 3 squares colored in, and it has to be 4 in a row, and it starts at the top. So let's count: 1, 2, 3, 4. This square should also be colored in. All right, moving on. We have our third column, which has a 4 in it. 4 in a row have to be colored in. And let's count what we have so far. We have 1, 2. Okay. Now we could put it in the first one, our first square in that column, but we already solved that. We should have put an X. It would have made it easier to see it now. So instead, we can go ahead and count down from this square. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4 that need to be colored in. And finally, we have our 4th column with a 4 in it. And it starts at the top as well. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Solve the puzzle. Solve the puzzle. And it's a heart. It's a heart that's flying away. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, let's do one more tutorial puzzle. Let's do one more. Let's do E. Level E. Alright, no hints. We don't use hints around here. We don't do hints. Okay, so let's see. Using what we've learned so far, which is the best place to start? If we start in either the row that has 5 or the column that has 5, we can easily find that row will completely be colored, and this column will be completely colored. All right. Let's see. So now where can we go? Okay. So you can probably see that starting with the biggest numbers would be your best bet. But you got to use a little bit more logic past that. If we start with our biggest numbers, we have our 3s. I'll do the 3 column first. Like I said, I like columns. Okay. So 3 in a row have to be colored. We already know 1. And that's the second to last square. Now, if 3 in a row have to be colored, we can't go down past the 5th square. So you'd have to go up. So let's see. It could be this square, this square, and this square. Or it could be this square, and this square. It definitely cannot be the topmost square in that column. So we can go ahead and X that one out. Now, in both of those scenarios, we have that this square and this square colored in. So no matter what, both of these squares will be colored in. We can go ahead and color in the third square in that column. And we can do the same thing for the row, the fifth row, which has the 3 in it as well. If it has to be 3 in a row, it will either be the fifth square, the fourth square, and the third square, or the fourth square, third square, and second square. It definitely will not be this square because that would be too long, and it definitely will be the third square. Alright, so we've got a lot of the puzzle done so far, and it doesn't even look like it. Now again, we have to use the information that we know. There's a lot of things that we've learned just from using those 4 rows. Let's see. Okay, let's look at the first row. I'm sorry, the first column. The first column says 2. And we already have 1 square. So that means the square next to it has to be colored in. We can't color in this one because X'd out. We can't use that square. So it has to be this square, the one right above it. And the same goes for the first row. We have a 2, and we have 1 that's already colored in. It can't be the square to its right, so it has to be the square to its left. All right, so much more solved, just like that. Okay, let's see. What can we do next? Let's make it cleaner, and we'll cross out everything that has all the squares. I'm sorry, every row and column that has all the squares that it needs. So it's a little bit cleaner for us to see. Okay, so let's take a look. We have in our second column a 2. Let's see. We also have 1 square in that column that's colored in. So the next square, the square next to it has to be colored in. It can't be the one above it because it has an X. So let's go ahead and color in the one below it. And then we have the same situation for our second row, which has a 2 in it. It already has 1 square colored. It can't be the one to its left because it's crossed out. So let's go to its right. Perfect. Perfect. It's a moon. Take a look at that. It's a moon. It's a crescent moon. And it's waxing and waning. That's actually pretty cool. It's actually pretty cool. Okay. So that's the tutorial on Picross. It doesn't get too much more complicated at this level. I'll make more tutorial videos so that you can see how much you have to think and how much logic goes into puzzles like this. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe so that you can see more as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching.